Newer players never want to change their sensitivity because of muscle memory, and our vets always shame them because we all know muscle memory, it's just a meme. But is it really? Let's find out. What up, ladies and gentlemen? It's the champ here with episode 18 of how to improve your aim and get those pitchforks ready because today we're going to be talking about one of the most controversial issues in aim training, and that's muscle memory. And if it's your first time here with the Angels, please take the time to hit the sub button so that you can come back for bi weekly aim training content. Now, let's get into the discussion. So I know I've mentioned this a few times in my videos, but I have a background in playing relatively high-level traditional sports, and my profession is in the sports and fitness field. So you sometimes get a bit of a different perspective from me than you will from someone with a degree in Reddit science. And I'm going to use some more sport-related examples and images to help you guys kind of visualize some of the concepts and examples I'm going to use in the video today. So muscle memory, it's such a contentious topic because a lot of really new players will post in Reddits and Discords about not wanting to ruin their aim by changing their sensitivity settings. And they'll get the whole, haha, you're a noob, muscle memory, it's a meme thing from the vets who are absolutely just sick and tired of nonstop questions about muscle memory. And personally, I hate that approach because muscle memory is a real thing and it can have an impact on your ability to familiarize yourself with motion, and I prefer more of an education approach than just shaming people for not knowing about something. So, muscle memory is a thing, but it's not necessarily what people think it is. Muscle memory, in regards to how we're going to be talking about it, really doesn't have anything to do with the actual muscles memorizing anything. Muscle memory is all neurological, meaning that your brain over time becomes more familiar with a specific motion and then becomes more efficient at doing that motion. So now, if you take a super skinny kid who's never lifted a weight in his life, the most gains he will ever get working out will be in his first month of lifting weights. And this is not because he got super jacked in a month. He probably gained very little actual muscle. His gains are actually neurological. And as his brain became accustomed to telling his body to perform these motions, he became more efficient at them. So now most players who are asking about muscle memory are very new aim trainers or people coming to PC from controller. And if you look at the average scores on the more common assessments in either Kovaaks or Aiming.pro, they're really low. Like, I think the assessment Kovaaks loads you into is kata long strafes, and the average score is around 2K, which is low, but this also means that half of the 200K people who tried this assessment have scored lower than that, which means they're barely hitting the targets at all. And these type of players obviously have not developed the neurological comfort with moving their mouse around. So for players like this, if they are on a sensitivity that makes sense, it doesn't really pay for them to change up their sensitivity settings since they do not have the basic neurological comfort with mouse motion, and they do in fact need to develop some muscle memory. So now let's talk about muscle memory for people who are fully invested in aim training. They've spent a few months consistently training, and they're scoring above the averages. So now these players have developed their muscle memory, or they've developed their neurological familiarity with mouse motion. Should these players be afraid to switch up their sensitivity? And the short answer is no, not really. And I want to use a sports example here. So Michael Jordan, The Last Dance just came out. Everyone should know who he is, I hope. He played a few years of college basketball at North Carolina. And if you don't know sports at all, in college they use a different size ball than in professional basketball. It's smaller and lighter. So do you think that when Jordan went to the pros and was handed this bigger, heavier basketball, he all of a sudden could not shoot at all? Like, he probably took his first shot or two, put them a bit long, and then adjusted to the new size basketball. So since he already developed his muscle memory with shooting, he was able to adjust to change. And I think this is a good example for, say, dropping your sensitivity from, say, like 35 cm to like 30 cm. You'll adjust pretty quickly if you're familiar with aiming. Now, I want to talk more about drastic changes in sensitivity because I saw some comments about how someone should be able to change from any sensitivity setting to virtually any other sensitivity setting with no fall off for their aim. And this kind of irked me a bit because it's very misleading, and expecting people who are generally new to aiming to change from say 40 centimeters to 20 centimeters, hop in game, and have no impact on their performance is ridiculous. Okay, in our basketball example above, this is like changing from shooting a basketball to a tennis ball. There will be an adjustment period to changing things around this drastically. There will always be an adjustment period to changing things around. And for some top players who regularly change their sensitivity, this might be only 2 shots in the practice range, while a more intermediate player might need a round or two of deathmatch to adjust. And then a player who is a complete beginner to mouse control and aim training, they might not adjust in an entire play session. And I know this from working with friends who were like those 10K DPI complete casuals, that it took them some real time to adjust to playing on a normal sensitivity setting. And here is why that is. Different sensitivities require some different motions or skill sets. So a high sense player might be really well developed at using their wrists, but until they have trained at a low sense, they won't ever really develop that familiarity with arm motion. Here is where the argument for training with different sensitivities comes into place. So if you put the fear of switching things up to the side, you can develop a more well-rounded skill set and work through deficiencies in your mouse control. And this is why you see a lot of experienced players training on different sensitivity settings or working on smoothness on a higher sense. And as you gain that neurological familiarity with different motions, your ability to transfer those skills between sensitivities with no impact on your performance also increases. And while I want to make another video on this topic, I just want to touch on the question of, well, when should you start training on different sensitivities? And if you're a complete beginner to aim training, I think your first 3 months, you should be focused on just kind of picking a sensitivity setting that makes sense, finding a beginner's routine, and focusing on developing your overall skill set, and waiting until you have some basic understanding of mouse movement before you start changing your sensitivities around. And as you become more familiar with mouse movement, you can start implementing different sense settings and smoothness routines into your training. All right, so that was a pretty long time of me just ranting and talking. So in summary, muscle memory is a thing, but it's not something to be afraid of, as there are benefits to changing things up. And once you have some aim training experience, a change in sense is like changing cleats in soccer or changing the ball in basketball, and you should adjust pretty quickly. All right, so before I leave you guys, once again, please support the channel by subscribing and hitting the like button. And I'm also very curious to hear some muscle memory opinions in the comments. I'll see you guys in 2 weeks for episode 19. Champ out.